Hey guys, welcome back to another video on Sanguinius 40k. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Blood Angels, a couple of their changes, what's coming down the pipeline for us essentially with Nephilim, and how we're going to have to adapt to see the same success we saw in Nakmund. So it feels like the most important part going into this season is going to be how we're going to be scoring secondaries, and more importantly, how we're going to be doing it consistently. So let's take a look at how the Blood Angel ones have changed, how we can score them, and what seems to be the most optimal approaches. So first, let's take a look at Relentless Assault. Essentially what you're doing here is you're going to be wanting more of your units in your opponent's deployment zone than they have in yours. I think this is going to be a very important secondary for us just because of how much raw killing power Blood Angels tend to have in the game, especially with +1 to wound and all the extra AP and especially volume of attacks. It's going to be very difficult for your opponent to truly hemorrhage your score, especially when you're dictating a really good tempo from the get-go. So even beyond going first, even if you go second, you can still take the board, still push into your opponent's deployment zone, while still having assets that can obviously counteract things that your opponent's trying to throw at you. It's also a really big deterrent when you know one of your units goes in, your opponent's tempted to throw one at you, but you have, Sanguinary Guard, Death Company pretty much there to answer as you score Relentless Assault at the end of your turn, so you'll always have a say in scoring this secondary. So next, let's take a look at Blade of Sanguinius. I personally do really love the change to this secondary. I think it makes it a lot more playable depending on matchups, and that's the key part of this. It's going to be very matchup dependent, so definitely not an auto include by any means necessary, but I think it's definitely going to be interesting when your opponent has a key character that wants to get involved into a game, and all of a sudden you're basically hanging points over his head in terms of, you can get aggressive with them, you can bring them into the fray, but I will be rewarded for it. And that kind of allows us to leverage more important killier characters such as Astaroth, Dante, a custom character with a Thunder Hammer for, as an example, to really, hit home and are able to bring home, potentially 10 to 15 points a game. So definitely some food for thought there. But like I said, not an auto included in my opinion, but something very, very interesting. So the last two here is where things start to get really spicy, I feel. I think there are definitely two secondaries you can build for. However, there are two very different builds from what I've discovered in my recent testing. That's also a reason why I haven't been making too much content. I've been constantly testing things out, busy with work as I've mentioned in the past, and just a couple of family things as we all, I'm sure we're all aware of in all of our lives. But in terms of Fury of the Lost, let's attack this one first. You're essentially going to be rewarded for taking more Death Company units, and I've seen it from firsthand experience that when you bring 3 to 4 Death Company squads, if you're playing it correctly, it feels like pretty much an automatic, I want to say 12 to 15 points, which obviously in a game where secondaries are big is fantastic. However, what I've realized is playing against good opponents who know what they're doing, such as fellow teammates from the WTC on Team Canada, they understand that those units don't do any actions for you. So all of a sudden, if you're taking banners, retrieve data, or just anything in terms of playing the game, like planting bombs, if they can get rid of your other units, such as incursors, scouts, as I always love to take, and whatnot, the Death Company don't really do much else towards the game. But if you do like the all-in, approach, and you like to have just raw killing power and just be rewarded for it, this definitely could be a very specific secondary to you that you'll see a lot of success with. Now, shifting over to Death from Above, this is also similarly, a great killing secondary, but I definitely think it's going to require a higher skill cap to really get the most out of it. So I've been testing a few different options, one being a drop pod with a unit that can charge out of it turn 1, or a drop pod with Devastators to try and pick away something that's simple to take down, and that just gives you a simple reward of 4 points, which is quite nice. The other way that I feel like is going to be a higher skill cap, but is going to be one of the best ways to do this, is by essentially what I'm calling musical jump packs, because you're going to be sending units in and out of reserve for most of the game while finding a good tempo to still keep your board control from the get-go. So if you start too much in reserve, you're going to be overwhelmed by your opponent depending on what you're going up against. And if you start too little, you could find yourself not scoring enough points on it. So this secondary, if you're just playing very conservative and passive, looks like it could be something that's about like a 9 to 10, which again, in this Nephilim day and age, is actually not that bad. And if you're playing it to probably its utmost capabilities at a more high level, I feel like you could still achieve that 12. 15 definitely is going to be hard to achieve, But I think there is ways to do it, like I mentioned, with that draw pod and whatnot, or if people are exposing characters, or if the person has a very character-heavy army for whatever reason, and you're able to just connect that of reserve term after turn, so to speak. So first and foremost, I think points are going to dictate, obviously a lot of changes coming up in Nephilim in terms of our army and the armies that we're going to be going up against. So definitely a big buff for Sanguinary New Guard to go down. A couple of key changes here and there on War Gear. I know Death Company had a pretty, nice little boost there by going down, pretty much a handful of points. But overall, I feel like we're still going to be sticking to our bread and butter and pretty much building into those secondaries as mentioned previously. So, I mean, we still have other options in terms of, having board control units and whatnot, but I really do feel like in Nephilim, speed will be the name of the game. It just really depends on your play style and what secondaries you're going to build for. So with that in mind, there's obviously going to be a meta shift in terms of, what we're going to be going up against or the composition of different armies. I really do feel like, Tyranids took quite a significant hit, I guess you can say, but they're still going to be, I think, still too strong in terms of where they should be at, but that's my hot take on that. So Tyranids definitely will be a very prominent faction still, with very strong builds, with similar tricks to what they could do, just with maybe one less large unit on the board now. In terms of some other factions, Harlequins took a pretty big hit, but I definitely think Light will definitely survive through all of this, and they'll be very strong. And then, of course, Eldar, I think, definitely, could have been hit a bit more, but definitely could feel some repercussions that will allow us to have some more play into them. As for the CP changes in Nephilim, definitely will hurt us just because we like to have defensive strats at certain times in the game with Transhuman, -1 to hit on certain things depending on what you're running, Heroic Interventions, Forlorn Fury, Angelic Sacrifice, list goes on. But rest assured, I feel like it's just going to be a lot more resource management on our part and doing a lot more preparation in terms of what do I need turn 1? Do I need 2 CP, then let's make sure I start with that. Or do I only need 1 because I get 1 right at the start of the game, whether I go first or second. So it's going to be a lot more just adapting to, what your army needs and especially what tricks you want built into it. So like I said, if you think a crucial part is having, Transhuman available at all times, build that into your plan. So maybe that relic, like Teeth of Terror, for example, that was cute before, might not be necessary now. Now, the big question. Where do Blood Angels sit in the meta today? There's a lot coming from every angle. Armies are still going to adapt. We've seen some massive buffs to some armies like Death Guard, and Necrons are huge winners through this. So a lot of armies are going to rise to the top, potentially out of nowhere with some very strong builds. Sisters are strong. Nids are still strong. We've mentioned the other pointy-gear factions. They're always going to be strong for the most part. So it is going to be interesting to see the dynamic in that ecosystem of, possibly some predators, or there could be some counterplay or some rock paper scissors going on, so that will definitely alter how we fit. However, I think personally we have the tools to see us be a top 5 contender in the game currently, depending on the build and depending on even the terrain set that you're playing on. That could play a big factor in that as well. So definitely a lot of excitement to come, but lots of practice to be. So that's pretty much it from I guess you could say, content standpoint for today in terms of secondaries, where we sit in the meta. Obviously, there's going to be a lot coming down, the pipeline in terms of just testing and, what we all find out, because we're all going to play the game, in slightly different ways, no matter who you are and how you do it. So it's really exciting to see 40K just continue to evolve and obviously, stay up to date with, what the community wants. And I think Games Workshop's done a pretty good job considering, all of the, I guess, backlash from the community at times when things feel, imbalanced and whatnot. So really cool to see overall. But I did want to obviously share a couple of things before I let you guys go in this video with, a couple of things that I've been able to achieve in the past, month that I haven't posted a video on, as well as, what's coming up for me, just to kind of keep you guys in the loop if there's of interest. So in the last, I believe it was a month or so, I want to say post Motor City, I was able to, go to a GT and was very fortunate to, win the 6-round event there. It was 4 games on day 1, 2 games on day 2, played some really great opposition. Not just saying that because I won it. They were actually really, really great players from all over Ontario that came together to this event called the Grinning Demon Series. So it was really fun, really great experience. Was, ecstatic obviously with the win. But was definitely probably my last ride with Nachman, seeing that success. So definitely really cool to experience. I also was able to win my division in Toronto, which is part of the Ontario 40K League that we have up here in Canada, which is really awesome, run by an amazing group of individuals with just, I mean, great communities left, right, and center. So within that event, I was actually able to make it into the top cut in the final two. I actually have the finals coming up, which is exciting. So that'll be something, more playing for, I guess, pride and repping Toronto, or the division of Toronto, I should say. So that'd be pretty cool and a lot of fun. Also, that will be the last game with the Nachman pack. And then immediately after, I got a team tournament coming up called TGX. Which is located also in Toronto. That'll be, pretty fun event, definitely different, and going to be a lot of exposure to the new factions and new builds, which is basically all I'm looking forward to from that, with, fun with friends from team events, which is amazing. In terms of single event coming up right after that, I will be going to the Salt City GT. That will be something, I'm looking forward to as well, to really stress test, my first singles list in a competitive environment. So could go, horribly wrong, or it could go really well. I'll do my best and see what it comes, where it come out at the end of it, because that'll be an 8-round event. And then 2 weeks after that will be the WTC, which, a lot transpired in the past month. Long story short, there was a drop on our team, one of our best players. I was thrown into the fire to replace him. So I'm super ecstatic to be playing on the top 8 for Team Canada, representing our country. I think it's going to be a great experience. I'm super excited to get, my butt kicked by some amazing players that, literally the best in the world. So definitely no way to get better at the game than to lose. But I will definitely try my best to represent our sons of Sanguinius nobly, and hopefully, can leave the tournament with my head held high at the end of the day. But no, jokes aside, I think we're going to have a great event. It's going to be a lot of fun. Lots of 40K though. We have 6 rounds for the singles, 8 rounds for the teams. All in a week. So, really looking forward to the experience in Belgium. And obviously there's going to be some reporting coming back from me after that, because I can't wait to experience it all. But that's pretty much it for me coming down the pipeline for events. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Please, as always, like, share, subscribe, and help the channel grow. I do this obviously for you guys to, help enlighten you on situations. If people are in the dark on things, I love to help them, see the light. Because not everyone has the time to just constantly test or whatnot. Not that I do, but I try my best to put pen to paper as much as possible on my free time, which has been obviously pretty light these days, but I'm still trying my best with what I have available. And like always, comment. I'm always open to asking questions. And if there are enough questions, maybe I can do a Q&A video. So please, in below here, just throw some comments up, questions that you may have for me. And maybe the next one will be a Q&A video to give you guys some more content more frequently. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.